What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Therapy. It's winter time. I mean, it doesn't really look like winter right now, but it's definitely winter time. So I'm bored, right? Time to find new cool things to do. Well, had a bit of fun. I did the side discharge cover to my 22-inch Toro right here. And then I did the cover, the safety cover to my hedge trimmers, 40 volt hedge trimmers from Ryobi. And then I did the actual leaf blower itself. And guys, it looks sick. Now today, you can see that I'm already done, right? And I would love to show you me doing this live, right? But I recorded the whole thing when I did it live. I got into the editing process and I had no audio. I was so angry. But then I got an idea. I decided all's not lost. I was gonna figure out some way, somehow, to salvage this footage. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna talk over the stuff that I did in order to create what we have right here in front of us. Starting with supplies. Rob. Your Majesty. Thanks, bro. You're welcome. All right, little cameo by Rob. Now I got this idea from my cousin, Trey Brown. I'll throw that up there in the corner, link to his channel. But he actually did this on his channel not too long ago, hydrodipping, and I was like, well, you know what? Why not hydro dip some stuff around the house? Anyway, leading into supplies. So other than the container that you want to make sure is large enough to fit this right here, your largest item, you'll know everything else is going to fit. You're going to want to make sure that you have a multi-surface paint. And my recommendation when it comes to the paint is, guys, don't go cheap, right? I ended up getting 2 different brands. That's not nearly as important as getting a quality product to use that is multi-surface. When it comes to the paint, don't go cheap. You get what you pay for. That's my first recommendation to you. Then the next thing you're gonna need, right, is some gloves, right? You're gonna want some gloves. I have disposable gloves right here at the house. I use them in the garage anyway. Most of you have them, so there you go. Another thing that you're gonna need during this for your PPE is going to be your mask. You're gonna want some type of mask, and you're definitely going to want to be in a vented room, all right? Make sure that you have some eye pro. If it's not a sunny day like it is right now for me here today in Maryland, get some clear eye pro so you can make sure that you're seeing what you're doing, right? Additionally, you're gonna want some gloves, right? Kudos to Rob bringing those over to us. We're gonna want to have a tarp and a drop cloth, or maybe even some cardboard. You want your tarp to lay down and just minimize the mess when you're doing the dip. That's what I used it for. And also when you go to put down your primer of paint onto whatever it is you're gonna dip. Lastly, you need something to dip. So find something that you want to dip. The next thing you definitely want to consider whether or not you need it or not is going to be some paint tape. If you have some sensitive areas on the equipment that you're dipping, like screw holes that you don't want to necessarily get paint in or even get wet, then you're going to want to tape those areas off with some paint tape. I used it, and I'll show you later on how I ended up applying it here on this job. Obviously, we're going to want to fill up this bin with water all the way up to the top, pretty much, making sure that you're leaving enough room for you to dip the item in the water displacement that's going to happen. Next thing you're going to want to do is prep with the tape, right? So before we prime, we want to prep those sensitive areas with the tape. I personally taped my weed eater head right where the screw well is, right here on the screen I'll show you, and then I taped the inside of my blower because that's the portion that slides over this part on the air blower, so I didn't want any paint to get stuck in there. And then right after that, I went with a white primer because that's what was recommended. When you move over to priming your equipment, you're actually gonna apply that coat of paint. So you wanna apply the even coat of paint, multiple applications if necessary. You don't want to get the paint too bunchy as it creates bubbles and ripples. You want a nice smooth surface to be able to dip and wrap your film around. All right, so the third step is going to be wargaming strategy technique is what I want to call it. Now you're going to want to look at the equipment that you have, the thing that you've chosen that you're going to dip, look at the angles, look at the crevices on it, and really determine and come up with a strategy on how you're going to dip and make sure that you maintain surface contact and completely submerge that item in one even motion, right? So once you figure out how you're going to do that, your third step is complete. Now it's time to paint your canvas. And I say paint your canvas because the top of this water surface, right? Think of it as a canvas. Whatever you're trying to create, that is your canvas that you are going to dip or roll whatever items it is that you choose into. So that's what's going to make this really cool, right? Is that you're painting your canvas. So treat it as such. What's also going to be important is how much paint are you going to lay down on your canvas. If you go too thin, then that film might not be exactly where you want it. It may be a little thinner. If you go too heavy, same, vice versa. So I just want you to be mindful when it comes to preparing your canvas and actually preparing yourself to dip. You need to think of those things before you actually dip, right? So that's what we did. And the first dip roll attempt for me was the leaf blower. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I jacked it up. It was horrible. This is what I did. I tried to dip it. And this surface and the way that I painted my film and just all the variables, how they lined up, turns out dipping was not the best method for me doing this. I messed it up right here. You can see I come in at the angle. I think that I got it. I dip it in there. We're in the water now. I think everything's cool. I'm shaking, I'm wobbling. I start moving the water around and guess what? Fail! Right here, you know what I mean? I mess up, I pull up. It's just, look at it. It's running, it's messy, it's disgusting. It was just a fail, right? And then I was like, oh well. Of course, I thought I had to strip this and start all over because I was unaware of how this really worked yet. I still didn't understand what it was I was doing. Like, I kind of knew what I was doing, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. So I said, I'm gonna start with something smaller. I'm gonna come back to this while I think and I game plan on how I'm going to readdress this fail that just happened, right? So I prepped my canvas for this. I realized that I didn't use all the paint that was in there, so I just fixed it real quick and I prepped my canvas for this girl right here. I was determined to get my confidence back, so I prepped it, I dipped it, I came out of the water, I looked at her, and boom, look at that. She's glorious, right? That's what I said. While I was dipping it, I realized that it was a film. And like, as I pulled it up out of the water, that's when I saw, oh, it's a film. Like, I'm wrapping it with a film of paint and I control what that film of paint is. So it really set into me and I was like, hey, I got an idea. I'm gonna build up my confidence and I'm gonna test my theory with, boom, this girl right here to see if it's like a wrap, and if it is, I'm just going to rewrap this completely. That's the plan I come up with, right? So I take this, of course, I made myself a little handle on it, and I decide, okay, I'm going to paint a little something. I wanted to put this huge blue, I don't know if it's picking it up or not, but yeah, I wanted like this big oil blue wet stain looking on it, and something to just, you know, to stand out on that bread and really make it pop. And I decided that that's what I was going to do to this, and I wrapped it and boom, we won again. We win again. So confidence through the roof. I'm determined I can do it. So here we go, right? I prepped my canvas one last time. And by the way, in between prepping the canvases, what I learned is you can use paper towels to scoop out all the remaining paint that's still in there. Just make sure you don't get huge pieces of debris within the water, because if you do, you need to remove that, because then it'll get stuck up underneath the film that you're creating, that paint and that film that you're creating. So make sure that you keep your water clean, and then you can kind of like filter it out as you go. Because I'm not doing this on a professional level, I'm not wasting that much water. I'm just not doing it, right? So that's what I did, and it worked out just fine. So because of the tube tubular form in shape of the air blower, right? I decided that actually wrapping it was going to work out just fine. So when I dipped it, all I did was spun it, and I made sure to beat the water. So that was my plan with the second attempt of this, and it worked really well. I mean, I couldn't be happier or more pleased with this. Ryobi's never looked better. I don't know how long this is gonna last, but you can always redo this. This isn't a big deal. And this is something cool that you can do with, if your kids have some toys around the house, or like they wanna dip their PlayStation controllers, dads, moms. This is a cool little nifty project that you can do with them that allows them to be creative and for you to kind of tap into your little creative nature as well, right?